Beep, 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 beep. Here we go. Right, morning. This is another one of those, I'm afraid, that makes me unbelievably angry. May you too. Become a warrior teacher. If you're in New Zealand, Australia, get the message out to the New Zealand and Australian people, please. We've got one for your time. I'm also looking at doing one for Canada, where I get up at 1 a.m. and do it. So let's do that as well. Canada, New Zealand, Australia, come on down. I need you on the Warrior Teacher Program. Subscribe if you would, please. Buy me a coffee. Find me on Twitter. Do whatever the hell you want to do. But do support if you can. I'd be really grateful. I've got a studio to pay for. I've got not a studio, but a room that's going to look studio-ish. So I'm quite excited about that. Okay, and I've got a GC helping me do it. There you go. Do business with each other. That's the way forward. Anyway, it's lovely to be able to talk to you again today. So let's deep dive into this rather terrifying article that's come from the Telegraph. Again, links as usual in the Dubras, all right? So here we go. Parents' fury as children are told a sex change can stop bullying. Right, now I maintain an air of scepticism about anything before I've had a good read and found out a little bit about what's going on. So I'm asking you to have that same air of scepticism. The Telegraph is actually bob on with most of this stuff, more than most newspapers. But just we have to be circumspect because there's other things that have happened lately that people are reading the wrong thing about or reading something into it which isn't there. And we have to be very careful about doing that. I'm not telling you off. I'm just reminding myself more than anything else. All right, so let's think about this. Reckless classes leave young people thinking that transitioning gender is a silver bullet against their tormentors, claim campaigners. Parents have claimed material used in sex education lessons suggests that transitioning gender would stop teenage pupils from getting bullied. Chameleon PDE, an educational consultancy. Chameleon. If it's not chameleon, it's indigo. If it's not indigo, it's unicorns. If it's, Chameleon PDE, an education consultancy, produced classroom resources that told students as young as 14 puberty is optional and there are 7 genders. Why isn't this a crime? They're causing iatrogenic harm. They're encouraging people to adopt a mental illness as an identity. That should be illegal, and it certainly shouldn't be happening in schools. A presentation produced by the group on gender diversity told the story of Tom, originally a girl called Tina May, who found that he stopped being bullied at school after switching genders. I've said this a dozen times before. This is queer theory being practiced in schools. It featured a quote from Tom who said, "I couldn't believe my bad luck when I got to secondary school and I was put in the same tutor group with that mean kid. Once I'd transitioned at school, the bullying stopped. There were few whispers, of course, and a few stares at first, but it became old news in the end." What kid talks like that? But it became old news in the end. What kid talks like that? None. If a kid talked like that, you'd just stuff a biscuit in its mouth and tell it to get outside and play, wouldn't you? Oh, it's become old news. They haven't even got a concept of what old is. It became old news in the end. These unbelievably stupid, reckless people who have absolutely no right being in classrooms with children. None. It has drawn criticism from parents and campaigners. Right. Do you think? Really? Right. Okay. I imagine it did. Who say it effectively promises vulnerable teenagers that switching gender is a silver bullet against bullies. That's exactly what it does. That statement in the book says the bullying stopped when I transitioned. God, it's dangerous. Suggesting to impressionable children that feeling different from others or experiencing bullying can be solved by coming out as trans is reckless, says James Esses, co-founder of Thoughtful Therapists, a group of clinicians with concerns about healthcare offered to trans children. Well, James is being far more polite than I would. I don't think it's reckless. I think it's deliberate, and I think it's lethal. They will ruin people's lives with this. There's also no such thing as a trans child. I'm sick to death of saying this. There's only a child in distress. Hell is wrong with these people. If they come to you with a trans identity, that's a red flag. It's straightforward. Straightforward. It's a red flag of incoming iatrogenic harm, and it's a red flag of historical problems which have caused this child to do this. The answer to bullying or feeling different is to encourage self-acceptance, rather than trying to fundamentally change someone change who someone is. Bullying's been going on in schools as long as I can remember. We don't deal with it effectively. We never have really, I don't think. I would have done with bullying, they told me years ago. They never have done with it. The only way you deal with a bully is bully it. As a society, we must stop teaching vulnerable children that transition is a silver bullet to solve any disease they have in the world. One parent who claimed the resource had been taught at her child's school said they've got all the kids in the classroom thinking, oh, that's a good idea then, I won't be bullied anymore when I turn trans. Instead of just dealing with the bullying policy, they're teaching children stuff which can lead them towards a pathway which is surgical or medical. It is not complicated. They are encouraging children to self-diagnose as unwell, to self-diagnose with a mental illness, to self-diagnose into a lifetime of medical and surgical procedures. I've seen the government guidance as well. It doesn't go near far enough. I haven't gone through it all yet, but it's just come out. It's not enough. It's not enough. You've got to get this stuff out of schools. Is it Michelle? I don't know. Who is it that's doing it? I don't know. And you just get it out of schools. In the comedian presentation, Tom ultimately decides against using puberty blockers. They're talking to 14-year-olds about puberty blockers. After consulting with his GP, but the slides make clear that it is an option. It's not an option. It's not an option anymore. According to Comedian PD's website, clients include a number of schools and local authorities across the country, including Hull City Council and Swindon Borough Council. Those who want to access its gender diversity presentation, which comes with a number of resources, pay £360 for the first year of a subscription, followed by another £180 every year. They've got a picture of it. You can see it in the article that I put in the Dubras downstairs. Angela Milliken-Tull, middle class, gotta be, double-barrelled, middle class. Angela Milliken-Tull, co-founder of Comedian PDE, said, we follow current Department for Education guidance for statutory relationship, health and sex education when writing material. Well, what does this have to do with health and sex education? Nothing. We allow schools to edit our materials and we constantly update lesson packs as things change. If you can allow schools to edit your materials, what's the point in you being there? We don't receive any government funding. Oh, I sincerely hope not. We have an extensive library that covers the much wider PSHE curriculum that allows young people to critically examine a whole range of current issues. By critically there, you understand what they mean? They don't mean critical thinking. They mean critical social justice. We have deliberately chosen to design a library of optional resources that allow schools to bespoke their PSHE to the needs of their students. We have deliberately chosen to design a library of optional resources that means that the schools will get them and just won't be bothered to change them because they haven't got time because they're busy people, teachers. Within the library of over 200 lesson packs, only 2 focus on gender diversity. The lesson pack quoted and a similar one for post-16 students. Schools would only use these lessons if they felt it was appropriate for the needs of their pupils. Those lessons shouldn't be available. The Education Department has not gone far enough with this, I'm telling you now. Not by a long chalk. We appreciate that this is a fast-changing landscape. It's not a fast-changing landscape. Sex can't change. Fast-changing landscape. They're talking about the medicalisation and sterilisation of children. And our 25 years experience in this area, really what? To do what? Has taught us that nothing stays still in this area for long. Sex stays still, you idiots. We will update our materials accordingly in line with the government review of RSHE relationship. We have no affiliation to either of the groups quoted. A DFE spokesman said, as part of our current review, we will be looking at introducing age ratings and making sure teaching materials are high quality. We are clear that schools must make sure all the content they use is factual and age appropriate. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. They're going to ignore you until you get Ofsted together, get a group of men together and a group of women together who know what reality is, and get them to help with the eking of this stuff out of school. We need to yeet the crap out of the schools. Get it out. The only teaching that should happen about gender identity and trans ideology is the teaching that tells them the truth. The truth of Money and Kinsey. The truth of the Beaumont Society. Yep. And Press for Change. The truth of what they did. What they are responsible for. That's the only thing that should be taught. The Education Secretary is working closely with the Minister for Women and Equalities to publish guidance for schools for the summer term on how to respond to children who are questioning their gender identity. There is no such thing as gender identity. There are no children, therefore, that can question it. There you go. It's not complicated. You know, gender expression, fashion, gender identity, personality. There, it's easy. That's all you have to do. Let these people have their quasi-mad religious belief systems. That's fine. You can have it. You just can't practice it. Right? Okay? So I think that we need to be very clear that what we're seeing is a softening of the government's stance. If those education guidelines do not explicitly prohibit the teaching of the cult mantras of the critical social justice crowd. We know it's been done in America. They're going to have to do it in the end. I just don't know why they're obfuscated about it now. And personally, I think it's an election winner. Genuinely, I do. I genuinely think that it's an election winner. That if I was him, I'd be out the gates, right? And you could crush Labour with this. And even if you didn't crush them, even if Labour got in, you could send them into Parliament, right, with a reputation so tarnished that everything they did would crumble. So it's probably possible that the Conservative Party, whether they win the election or not, will win the war in the long term. Because Labour are going to go into Parliament, are going to go into government if they win, with a reputation and an image so damaged that everything that they do that follows will be tainted by it. We'll get them in the end. We just got to keep strong and keep going. All right, folks, something else to consider there. And, another bunch of nutters in schools. See you later.